Hello. Oh, that worked. Great. Hello, everybody who is watching, or actually, no one is watching, but that doesn't really matter. I had a friend of mine say to me once that instead of showing off and playing music and doing things like that on YouTube or whatever the platforms you are engaged in, why not just talk? Talk about what you know and talk about what you might have learnt so that others can hear your story. So I thought I might do that. You're interested to know that my actual birth name is Cameron Summerfield. And I changed my name when I was 22 for artistic reasons to Francis, mainly inspired by the great and wonderful saint, Saint Francis. I'm not saying I'm a saint in any way, but I was inspired by his approach to non-materialistic life, renouncing attachment to those types of things, almost like a Buddhist thing, really. I'd say, of course, Saint Francis was a Christian, but he was also almost pagan. In many of his prayers, he sings and makes praises to the elements of the earth, wind, brother wind, sister moon, etc. And I admired his stance on not becoming a soldier like his parents wanted and turning away from a path that would lead him to be murdering others in the name of some king or country or some duke or whatever noble was telling him that he had to go and fight for this, that, or the other cause to some claimed enemy. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all the same family under the same sun. We all share the same earth. We all breathe the same air. We're all the same family in the end. That's what I believe. The only thing that divides us and makes us feel enmity towards our brothers and sisters are the control trips and the mind control programs that have been exerted on us. We have been conditioned to believe all these different things that are right or wrong, etc., etc. Some of these things are wrong. Some of these things are right. Certain morals and ethics make sense in relation to how we organize ourselves as social animals, if you see human beings as animals, because our bodies are actually a primate animal form. Okay, so let me begin to explain some of my philosophy on life from somebody who has lived more than half their adult life, I guess, so far, unless I lived to 110 or something, and has also used their brain to inquire and had the time to do that more deeply into some of these mysteries of why we're here, what we're doing, and what certain things mean. I have had the liberty of actually having a huge amount of time to read hundreds of books. I have a massive library of hundreds of books dedicated to topics that are on the fringes of knowledge. They're in the fringes of knowledge where I think that we need to go in order to understand more about the universe around us and ourselves and how we fit into it all. They exist somewhere on the cusp between religion and science and spirituality. There are these gray areas where things cannot be said to be true or false. They can't be said to be a fact or not a fact. These are in the realms of philosophy. In this day and age, people have this epiphenomenalistic, pragmatic view that everything can be explained by material sciences and the Western ethos. This is patently absurd and utterly wrong. It is wrong for many reasons. One of the first reasons why it is wrong is because it is faulty in its logic. One that assumes they know everything cannot know any more because there is nothing more to know, when actually, if you look at our sciences, at the things that we place faith in the Western world, I'm saying Western developed nations, however you want to say it, it's like that other stupid bullshit term people are using, authoritarian. Who reinvented the word totalitarian? It means exactly the same thing. So these are other examples of where the Chinese communists have actually started implementing their plan for world domination by influencing, using the same techniques the CIA worked out with the MK Ultra mind control program, that the Nazis worked out with their brainwashing tactics from Goebbels and their huge machine that made them believe that they were fighting for peace and making world peace, when in fact they were gassing my cousins and turning them into soap. Because I'm actually Ashkenazi. My surname is Omafeld. Ashkenazi. I went to the town in Poland of my namesake. Not many Sommerfelds there left, actually. But a beautiful little town and very ancient and old. The name spelt goes back to about 900 AD. And we were ruling Jewish nobles back in the times of the Crusades, and I believe our ancestors went and fought in the Crusades. They were Templar Knights. But getting back to the topic of the philosophy and me going on about things to put my views and just actually talk like my friend said I should do. So I'll continue on this track of where I have had too much time on my hands to, and having an inquiring mind, have wished to find answers to deep questions that many people just don't have the time to even think about or even consider beyond their general tarrying after putting food on the table for their families, paying taxes, doing their jobs, whatever they may be, in their chosen occupations, supporting a society and a structure of society that also in turn is supposed to be supporting them, theoretically. So I've had the privilege of growing up in a fairly free country. When I was younger, I had a very free life. I lived in 2 different countries. I grew up in the outback of Australia, running around like an Aborigine, I suppose. Apparently, I'm told I'm not allowed to use the word Aborigine, even though I'm actually part Aborigine anyway, because it's supposedly racist or something, but it actually, in English, it just means a native to a particular country. So I really don't understand where that is coming from or why, because it's certainly not a derogatory term. It's just a basic. Let's see, Aboriginal is a 5-syllable word in English that means native. Sorry, I'm going to continue to use the word Aborigine, Australian Aborigine. So apparently I've got a smither of 164th Australian Aborigine. I'm proud of that too, because they are a great people that have huge amounts of oppression at the hands of ignorance, just like many other indigenous races of various other worlds that have countries that have been colonized by the empire. So as you can see, I'm delivering this monologue from my bed, much like, say, John Lennon, because he lied in bed for about a week, didn't he, with his wife Yoko Ono, and they were trying to promote peace. So I'll do the same thing. Peace, man. Yeah. So, getting back to this topic is that I'm talking about was my views of philosophy and how things are panning out really right now. So, in my investigations into what's really happening in the world, I've noticed many things. 99% of people are utterly brainwashed. They organize their lives and do everything in their lives in accordance with what they've been programmed by their televisions. This has been going on for a long time now. Very few people are able to escape the grip that the system has over them. Many do. Some of them actually, their gateway to actually seeing through it or seeing through the conditionings they have had usually have involved some type of mind expanding psychedelic drug. In my case, I didn't really need them, but I've done those too. But in my case, it was actually my mind expanding on its own into psychedelic realms without the need for any psychoactive substances. But I have also used those also. So then I was also influenced in my 20s by the writings of Timothy Leary, Aldous Huxley, and many other quite prominent uh, uh, philosophical academics, should I say, writers, ponderers on, the meanings of existence. And to me, I think that without those things, I probably also would have been a very normal person. I probably just would have been play, played clarinet in the orchestra and had another day job or something, like being an electrician or something equally mundane but interesting. But no, I chose a completely different path. I decided to become a composer and an artist and a musician. And I've achieved some degrees of success and failure in that area. Sometimes I've reached quite high degrees of prominence in my art where I've been called upon by even an entire city council to create works for various festivals and that type of thing. But that was in my 20s. And since I moved away from that fair city, much of my achievements went into decline due to the fact that I was in a very remote place with few opportunities to exploit my talent on a larger scale. So, getting back to prattling on about life in general and what is going on. I'll give you a little bit more of a background. As Cameron Summerfield, I was an exceptional student at school. I had an incredible memory, probably because I've got too many brain cells for my own good. I was always top of the class in every subject, basically. I could spell any word because I read dictionaries. I used to read encyclopedias. I mean, that was my fun. I would read encyclopedias. I had an insatiable thirst for knowledge. And then when I started looking for answers and finding out more and more about things, I started tending to sort of wanting to know more about what we don't know, what still isn't explained by science. Currently, in the realm of quantum physics, for example, we don't know what 99% of the universe is made of, even though it seems to exhibit some sort of mass. Where is that mass coming from? Where is that gravity coming from? How is it that things are spaced that far apart when there is so, you know, what is dark matter? What is dark energy? All of these questions, there are holes. The holes started in the 19th century when we walked away from the ether. The luminiferous ether is the key to understanding dark energy and dark matter. If we start reorganizing our formulae, our ideas of the constituents of atoms, subatomic particles, and the particles that make up particles. If we factor in and then start seeing that all of these particles and all of the supposed matter, which is what Einstein was saying, even though Einstein was a plagiarist and didn't really have any original ideas of his own, was propped up by a whole lot of other people as the great genius, but actually it's thought that his IQ was actually only about 120, which is lower than mine, and actually a lot of people. But, he was the, figurehead that they had to put up to so that science could move on and they could forget about the ether and all those things that confused the hell out of them. They certainly didn't confuse Maxwell, or indeed they didn't confuse a lot of the early physicists of the 19th century, because they accepted that the ether was something very real. And the idea of the ether goes right back to the ancient Greeks. In essence, the ether, with an A, E-T-H-E-R, which has been almost a word that's been written out of, modern English. But the ether itself, the luminiferous ether, as it applies to physics, is a medium. It's an actual sort of an let's say, for example, we have waves, right? Now we try to describe light as being, waves, light waves. But what are light waves anyway? Waves of what? So really, you actually have to have a wave. It has to be a perturbation in a medium. It has to be a wave of something. I mean, you see waves on the ocean. They are waves of water. It's the motion of water. So the medium of the waves that are coming from the ocean, the medium for those is water, the ocean. What is the medium of light? Light itself is the medium and the wave at the same time. How does that work? Is it like a droplet going wee, or is it like rain droplets? Imagine that water is light, and so is light like droplets of light of water on their own, but it's not a wave anymore. It's a particle. So it's these types of analogies. If you think beyond what is being told to you by textbooks and things and start thinking for yourself, then you will start seeing that there are easier ways of explaining many of these things and analogies that you can come up with on your own that are far simpler and will make sense to you. For me, I would like to continue on with this same line of reasoning using philosophy and using logic and truth and reason to come to a conclusion of sorts. Or, even better, a question. Because usually, if you come to a conclusion, it means you think you know something. But if that knowledge doesn't arise further questions, then often it's something that's just fooling you into thinking that you have the answer, when actually the answer brings on more questions, usually, if it's truth. That is what truth is all about. Truth is about knowing. Knowing what? Knowing that what you perceive is real. But in what way is it real? And should we define these things? Yes. Reality. Reality. When you look around at reality, and of course, everybody, we're going to diverge into little realms of philosophy here. So somebody goes, oh, look at that cloud. It looks so gorgeous and pink. The sun might be setting. It's a beautiful evening. And you go, yes, that is pink. So we can come to a consensus agreement that yes, the cloud is pink. But how are we to know that that color that they're seeing, that they're calling pink, is the same as the color that you are seeing, which you are calling pink? For all you know, every pink hue that they see could be like what you see is green, but you call that pink, or the other way around, if you see what I mean. So we can label things with words and say this is pink and this is that and this is the other thing, but we can't fully know that everything that another person or other people are perceiving are actually entirely or exactly the same through the template of their own individual perception as others. We can cast doubt on the idea that there is any such thing as reality that relates to all people in the same way. And that's a simple way of actually explaining the fact that we can't all be told what is what because we don't all perceive from the same perspective or the same angle. No two people can look at the same thing from the same place because they can't occupy the same space with the same body. And let me continue further. So, we as human beings like to order everything to feel comfortable, to feel secure. You know, we like to know that the sun's going to come up, but it doesn't actually come up at all. It's actually the earth spinning, just like the fool on the hill who sees the earth spinning around and not the sun rising. And so we could watch the sun and we can go, oh, what is that thing up there? Hmm. And of course, this type of contemplation, right back to the days of even when we lived in caves and apparently fought off saber wolf tigers and hunted woolly mammoths. We always wondered, what are these things? So somehow we've got to this point now where we've been able to classify and order everything to such amazing detail that we have names for almost every type of microscopic microbe. Every type of plant and animal has a species or a subspecies or a genus. We have names for every single star that we can see and not see without being aided by some form of artificial magnification device, such as a telescope or a radio telescope. So you can see that basically humans apply meaning to their lives by giving everything a specific pigeonhole so they can feel comfortable about knowing what is what and how it relates to other things. What is the interrelationship of all things? Well, the interrelationship is what you see the relationship to be, because ultimately everything is connected in some way or another, whether it's by the surrounding space that says this area has this in it. We could look at in such a way as we could say that we have a relationship with Saturn. You might not think you do. I could say we have a relationship with all of the asteroid belt, and some might say, "Well, no, I don't. I I work at McDonald's every day, and well, what the asteroid belt got to do with me making burgers?" Well, it actually has everything to do with it because the relationship you have to the asteroid belt has to do with the fact that you share the same gravitational field of the sun, our whole Earth does, and the moon, as the asteroid belt, which we are orbiting. We're orbiting in the space of what we call the solar system. So the solar system as a whole, all of those things that make up in its complicit supposed order order in inverted commas, revolving around that sun. All of those things in that system, this solar system, whether it's planets and the asteroids and the asteroid belts and the funny icy things that are out beyond Pluto, which are in the um, in the realm where the comets come out of. That only recently been discovered. Actually, a lot of people don't realize this, but there are several other. Pluto's moon, Chiron, is almost as big as Pluto itself, and there are several other large planet-sized things out there, which is why they've decided not to call Pluto Pluto. It's sort of unfortunate because I liked Pluto, but it's an amazing planet all the same. The recent photographs that have been sent back make it look a lot like a planet to me. But yes, so out there we have all of these things surrounding the sun, so that we are part of the same basic system, gravitational system that forms the solar system. Then we have a boundary on our solar system between the interplanetary medium of space that surrounds the influence of our sun and the interstellar medium. The interstellar medium is different. It's a higher interstellar medium. The interstellar medium is different. It's a higher energy. The most recent data that we've had received from Voyager, which I remember when I was a kid, when it was going out past Jupiter and sending back pictures of Jupiter and Saturn and all these amazing things, and it was just incredible, really. Before they even had any landers on Viking, going to Mars or whatever, we had Voyager shooting out. So Voyager actually went beyond the edge of our solar system recently and sent back data which sort of surprised a lot of astrophysicists. They couldn't understand. Apparently, there's a lot more like cosmic plasmic type fire, if you want, ionized particles in the interstellar medium than we thought there were before. Or they didn't really know, but now we do know. So, and there was this buffer zone. There's a buffer zone between the solar system and the interstellar medium area of protection around the entire solar system, which is spinning like, it looks sort of like a comet with a tail as it goes around the galaxy. The planets are doing this, and it's around the galaxy at an incredible speed. Tens of thousands of miles an hour, hundreds of thousands of miles an hour in relation to what? Motion is something that's moving at constant speed. At least on some other points, then it's definitely moving. We have the solar system. The solar system is moving unbelievably fast, with the sun sending out this protective bubble around all of the planets and all the things in our solar, meaning sun, so the solar, sun system. So there are systems within systems, but also systems outside of greater systems. So in our efforts to find knowledge of what is and what isn't, or how the world really is, or how the universe is, or how we fit into it all, we have looked at relationships between various elements. In philosophy, this is known as reductionism. So we take elements of what makes up what we see around us. It's not just a big amorphous whole. There are things we can pull out and go, right, so let's say it's a shirt. A shirt is made up of many other elements. It's not just a shirt. It has a collar. It might have a collar. Some don't. It might have buttons, sleeves. There's all these parts that make up a shirt. On its own, a sleeve is just a sleeve. It's not a shirt. It's only a part of a shirt. just as a finger is part of a hand is part of an arm is, and so on. So, how we relate to those systems and what those systems do, how they function, what the laws are concerning motions within it, or how things affect other things. These are all in the realms of what we now call physics, but actually were born out of the early philosophers thinking about, what is the world, what is everything, why is everything, how is everything, and a universe that seems to show us that nothing is permanent, not physically anyway, because all that is seen has come from plasma and will go back to plasma being also matter, fire, microphone, nebulae, fire, and different ionized matter, that can't be or it's just ionized. It's like that. Also, if I compare into plasma, it's like a huge explosion, a big ball. It's this body, plagiarized, plagiarized explosion. The energy is now speed of light speed. Why the speed of light speed? Asked Einstein, that I don't think he really knows. He really just got a little, really a physicist. So, yeah, you can do it all there to pure energy. Probably, you could run this gas for 1,000 million years or something. It's ridiculous the amount of energy that's tied up in. That's why when you get a small amount of uranium and refine it, and neutrons into it or whatever you bombard it, it creates a massive explosion. It's changing it, and that's into a nuclear explosion. Nuclear explosions are different to other explosions. It's not a chemical reaction, it's actually a type of atomic reaction. Happening right at the level of the nucleus of protons smashing into each other. It's a chain reaction that happens in neutrons in this case. It's neutrons that do these neutrons, but they're made of a bit just a hollow with them. Yeah, getting back to this whole idea that energy and matter are the same thing. So this is the three things that talk about matter. Is it matter, matter, hashtag matter, does it? Or is it energy, hashtag energy is matter, does it matter? If matter is energy and energy is matter? No, use the difficult. Why? Because or matter can be converted to energy and vice versa. Yes, energy can be converted into matter. You can see here that processes can describe energy in terms of matter. Ah, yes, the processes of a supernova when plasma and pure energy into area and dense material. That is matter. Nothing. Larger elements have no nucleus in it. You can go. And sometimes that carbon that you can do. I believe that I can start by the pure diamond. The carbon content In my course of investigation towards these fringe areas that I was talking about to begin with, that are not related to science in the sense that they are established. These are things that are not established as being part of, say, an educational curriculum that you'd find at a university or school, and in many ways have been suppressed and swept under the carpet and put into the too hard basket, or the we don't want to go there because it's scary and we don't understand it, so it's something to be afraid of basket. Understand it, so it's something to be afraid of basket. Much as it's the ether tree that physicists walked away from to explain magnetism and light, electricity, and the other things. That is one of the keys to actually being a missing element that will explain most physicists today are brainwashed morons who think that their textbooks that they use when they're learning their physics have all the answers, and Michelson and Morley with their famous experiment proved that there was no ether drift. No, that's wrong. There was ether drift. The drift has shown there is ether, and there is an ether drift. So some things have to be revisited, and some people like Einstein have to be sort of brought down a peg or two to let other more brilliant engineers and physicists' ideas come to the fore and infuse it with some fresh but still old energy, such as great thinkers like Rudolf Steiner. Even though people are saying that he was racist, maybe they're right. But the energy manifested, real and tangibly used, even right up to today. His name was Nikola Tesla. He gave us things of benefit. What did Einstein give? Thousands in the flash of an eye. Are these things useful? Is wise? Get from it is